tonight we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into the Electronic National Vendor Declaration System. We're going to run through the agenda that's on your screen. So I will give you a brief introduction to ISC, Integrity Systems Company, what role we play and the systems that make up Integrity Systems Company. Then we'll look at eNVD, the benefits of using it, do a demo, and then I'll run you through some of the ongoing updates that we are going to see in the system in the future, all of the exciting things to come. Okay, so on the slide in front of you, you will see that Integrity Systems is at the bottom, which is a fully owned subsidiary of Meat and Livestock Australia, which is a service provider to industry. So as you can see, we are a service provider to various policy and strategy organisations on the top level. And essentially our role is to provide industry services. And we make sure that we are taking guidance from the people on, or the organisations on the top row, which are concerned with policy strategy, and they are the ones that are advocating on behalf of producers and being the decision makers for industry. So I guess the key takeaway here is that we do have a slightly different role to some of the organisations, but collectively we all work together to support the industry and provide the services required, particularly for integrity and compliance. So as I mentioned, ISC is a fully owned subsidiary of Meat and Livestock Australia. And just to give you a bit of context, Meat and Livestock Australia are a research, development and adoption organisation and marketing organisation. We collaborate with the Australian government and wider red meat industry. And I guess all of our investments and initiatives contribute towards the three main purposes you can see on your screen, which are producer profitability, sustainability, and global competitiveness. So Integrity Systems Company, basically we look after, as I mentioned, servicing industry in regards to integrity and compliance. Essentially, we deliver Australia's red meat integrity system. This system underpins consumer confidence in on-farm production of Australian red meat and covers, I guess, what you can see on your screen. So the on-farm assurance part, or better known as Livestock Production Assurance, the LPA program, and identification and traceability of livestock, which again is probably better known as the National Livestock Identification System, or NLIS. And I guess ISC works collaboratively with government and industry to deliver these kind of world-leading traceability and assurance programs, which are the foundation of our integrity system and certainly underpin all of our production of red meat. So just to take a little bit of a look into those two systems and give you some context around what the integrity system provides to industry, we essentially ensure that the Australian red meat that everyone produces in our various supply chains is safe to eat and is fully traceable. It provides on-farm assurance for animal identification and traceability from paddock to plate, and it underpins the livestock selling system in Australia, which gives confidence to buyers, retailers and consumers, both here domestically and across the globe, all of our various different consumers in various different places. So why is it so important? Just to pull it all together, I guess there's a couple of things on your screen and I'll just chat through them now. So there's the red meat industry in Australia is a $28 billion industry. We employ about 400,000 people across 80,000 businesses, which delivers product to 100 different global markets. So I guess ours is a very large and important industry. And there are thousands of people both here and across the globe that depend on our industry for their livelihoods, their food security and their protein requirements. And really the confidence that consumers have in our product is based on traceability through the supply chain, which provides accountability back to the farm where animals were raised, and production to an assessed standard. As a first world country, we can take for granted our food is produced safe safely and ethically, rather. But this, as I'm sure you all know, is not the case in every country. So when we are selling into our international markets, which the majority of our red meat does go into, they require transparent and rigorous production systems. Audited record keeping are all essential requirements for us to be able to supply into those markets. So we've just got some examples on the slide here where there has been issues. So things like mad cow disease, African swine fever are the sorts of risks that our systems essentially avoid so that we can still supply into the markets that we do. And I guess these just highlight why the system is so important, because it protects our industry prosperity, market access and advantage. And I guess that's linked to our overall reputation of providing safe and high quality food. And it certainly supports our premium prices and perceptions from overseas. And sort of finally, while there are multiple producers and many properties, the integrity system is really about bringing all of that together to provide quality assurance and traceability as one integrity system, and making sure that we do all understand and know that we have a role to play in order to stand by what you sell and really be able to continue to thrive in the market as we do. So there's two main programs that I mentioned that underpin that food safety and traceability. The first one is LPA, so Livestock Production Assurance, the on-farm management system, which is about livestock management, as you can see to the left on your screen. And the second is the National Livestock Identification System, or NLIS, which is about your livestock traceability. And as you can see, there's a couple of things that contribute to both of these systems, including a property identification code, the records that you keep in both of the systems, and obviously that includes the LPA eNVDs as well as part of both record keeping and also the trade and movement of your livestock. Okay, so now we're sort of starting to get into the nitty gritty. So an LPA eNVD, what it means on farm. So LPA eNVDs do bring together the assurance, identification and traceability details into one declaration. So it captures food safety information about the animals, all animals, as part of that consignment, each time they move from property to property or to other parts of the supply chain. And eNVDs provide evidence of livestock history and on-farm practices when transferring those livestock, and that's vitally important to both systems, both the LPA and NLIS, and collectively the integrity system as a whole. And the key takeaway from this is that the eNVD declaration, as it is best when it's clear, correct, and complete. So the eNVD system, it'll come as no shock that the E means electronic NVD. And so essentially what we've done is digitalise the National Vendor Declaration, which is available for free to LPA accredited producers. And in its current form, the best benefits about using eNVD are that you will always be on the latest form versions, which means that like we saw at the start of this calendar year, when industry endorses an update to the form versions, you're simply on that version. All the hard work's done for you. You don't have to reorder your books. It definitely reduces time and duplication of completing forms. So if you've got more than just the NVD paperwork that you're filling in per consignment, there's no duplicating common details across the forms. That is done for you. eNVDs are stored in a central, safe location that you can access consignments and refer back to them in audit, etc. And given that they are in a central and safe location, they are always available. So if, for example, you need a vendor declaration in an emergency, they are there for you to create 24/7. And the most exciting part about eNVD is that we're continuously improving the system based on your feedback and requirements. So we are constantly looking at how we can improve the current functionality and also building new features to suit our users. So as I mentioned, there is a few benefits of using eNVD at the moment. So answering the questions once. So things like to and from property, you don't have to put on the NVD, the health declaration, the MSA declaration, and the NFAS declaration. That will all happen for you. You can also pre-fill a bunch of information for consistent consignments using templates, which again saves you a bunch of time and reduces your errors, because if you get it right the first time, you know that the next time you come in, you're just changing a few minor details and the rest is done for you. eNVDs at the moment can be printed anytime. We understand that there is some flexibility required around the system for areas without service. So that is a benefit of using eNVD. It can be used on a mobile device. It is easy to read, understand, and doesn't get lost. So that's dealing with handwritten answers, losing your book. None of that is a risk or concern with eNVD. It will always be there and you'll be able to find it, and other people will be able to understand it. And finally, and probably most importantly, it gives you a $30 discount on your LPA accreditation and reaccreditation if you are a digital user of eNVD. Okay, so I am going to run through a demonstration of eNVD. Now, generally, what always happens is that demonstrations go a little bit skewy, so bear with me, and I'm going to look at another screen, but I've got the Brains Trust online if you do have any questions throughout, and I'm happy to stop if there's any major things that you want to re-look at. But I will go through the basics of eNVD, which includes the things on your screen. So how to access eNVD, what the homepage looks like, how to complete a consignment, how to submit and print it, how to create and use templates, how to edit the consignment, how to delete one if any mistakes are made. So I will start sharing my screen now. So I've just started in our LPA Service Centre. Now, I am cognizant that you will have to make it to this screen. What that requires is you logging in through the MyMLA process. And look, we have support systems set up around that, and which you can access from our ISC website and from various communications and things that we send out. And of course, in the resources post this webinar, you will also see how you can access LPA through MyMLA. Now, to access eNVD, which is part of the LPA program, you will need to come into the LPA Service Centre. You need to be an accredited LPA producer or feedlot. Once you get into LPA, this is kind of what the home screen will look like, and you will notice that there is an eNVD button up here. If you click that button, you will go straight into eNVDs. And this is the consignment home screen. So if you've done consignments like I have in this test account, you will see a number of consignments there. If you haven't done consignments, this will just be a blank screen, but that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're missing anything. It just means that you don't have any records yet. Then you will see at the top here that we've got highlighted on the consignments, which is going to be your home, like go to home essentially. This is where you want to land back to view all the things that you've done. We've also got a templates tab, an eDex tab, help tab, and a return to LPA. So all relatively self-explanatory. If we go to templates, it lists the templates for your account. Obviously, there's quite a few because this is a test account of ours. It also gives you little warnings about things that you may have to do. If you go to eDex, you will find a history of electronic declarations that you may have submitted through the eDex system. Again, if there's none there, like for me, that's not an issue. It just means that we didn't have any when we switched over to eNVD. If you did have them and you can't find them, you can use the search function here. But of course, if you have done them, they should be listed here under your pick an account. There is a help button, so we do have some in-app help for you to navigate to, and of course you can go back to the LPA Service Centre when you need to, and these options are all available at all times. The other things that you will notice on your screen is this little feedback tab over here. So using this, you can tell us about what your experience is like, and when you actually click on something, so I'll just go neutral, you can take a little screenshot if you're having an issue, and you can basically tell us where those things are happening. So if it's here, you can click on it. If it's not, don't worry about it. If you just want to give us a review or tell us what's wrong, that's fine. You can do that too. That will come directly into our support team. And as I mentioned before, that will directly feed into what we are developing and changing about the system. The other thing you'll notice is this little megaphone down the bottom, and that gives you a bit of a list of articles on the things that we have recently released or that we've done in the system. So if you're wondering what's new, you can always pop down there and have a look as well. Okay, so let's get into creating a consignment. So at the top right-hand side on the screen, you'll see create new consignment. When we go into create a consignment, you've got two options. You can start from scratch, which is on the left, or you can choose to use an existing template. Obviously, if you're a new user, which majority of the people on the call are, you won't have any templates to select from to begin with. So you're likely to just go create from scratch, and that's what we're going to do today to begin with. So when you come into your consignment, it will ask you for your movement information, which is consistent with Part A on a regular paper copy NVD. At the top here, you've got owner of livestock, which is pre-filled as the account that's logged in. So you can see here that that box is ticked that I am, and this is the location that those livestock are moving from. Now, if, for example, that I was moving them from this pick, but they were owned by an agistee, I can untick that box and search for the agistee or type in the agistee's manual details here. This is often used in a custom feeding scenario for feedlots, whereby they're feeding on behalf of someone else. If not, then you can leave these details. If you notice these details are incorrect, you can edit them. However, the pick is mandatory as it would be printed on a form. So that one you can't amend. You will need to log into the account that you're wanting to move livestock from, but the other details you can edit to make sure that the consignment is right. The next part of the movement information is where are the livestock being transported to. So this is, for example, if we were sending livestock to a sale yard situation, I would be looking for a sale yard. I will just send it to one of our test picks for the moment, but let's just assume Mr. G Basher is a sale yard and I have an agent that I'm consigning through. The next question says, who are they being consigned to? And if it's not where they're also being transported to, you can untick that box and search or enter the details manually of the agent or person that's taking consignment of these. And just so you know that that person that's taking consignment doesn't need to have a pick. So they can have an address and a name, but they don't have to have a pick. And that's consistent with the paper form as well. So as you can see there, I've got they're being transported to our fake sale yard and they're being consigned to our fake agent. But obviously that can be real in your case. I'm going to pick that we're moving the livestock today. Now you can pick that you're moving the livestock up to 28 days in the future, which is another great feature of eNVD because it allows you to plan out consignments. And you can come back in and change these features as required. So you can pick a date that is in the future. And then you can pick when they're going to move if you do know. So I'll just say that they're going to move at 8 p.m. Okay, so then it will ask you to select your species. And this is something that we're working on pre-filling based on your profile information. But for tonight, I will stick to a cattle consignment to show you a couple of different things that we can do with that. Now, this account that I'm signed into has got an EU accreditation, an MSA accreditation, and a national feedlot accreditation scheme access. So that means that I can pick the NVD that I want to do. So for the purposes of this, I'll just pick a regular NVD and I will pick a regular MSA form to accompany that NVD as well. Okay, so then it takes me into what we call our wizard for the consignment, which steps you through the different sections that you have on a regular consignment, starting with the livestock. So again, consistent with your paper form NVD, you can add a livestock description here in the middle of your page, and it will ask you for the general information that you're used to filling in. So number, breed, so general description. So we'll just do 10 heifers. Now you can draw the brand if you would like, or upload an image of your brand. If you're not, you can also do a brand description like you might have done on the paper, and you can put your total head count in here, and there is space for room and devices if you have used them. When I select add, that's one line of livestock, so that's the first part, and my total head count is at 10 because I've added 10 head. If I have more livestock to add, I can add another livestock description here. So let's just say I have 10 steers to send as well. That can go in here, and they can have different descriptions to match what's actually being sent, similar to the way you would do different lines on an NVD. And then you can see down the bottom here that your total head count and number of electronic tags has come up to meet the total of the 2 sets of livestock that you've put in that you are moving.
So we're up to the end of the livestock section, and we've had a couple of questions come through which Callum is taking care of in the chat. So we might press ahead, although I do note that you mentioned that you can actually draw a brand. And I know you get feedback sometimes that, you know, farmers with fat fingers or whatever, sometimes it's a bit tricky to do that. So if you are going to draw a brand, how would you go about that?
Yeah, sure. So let's just add another description of my favorite count. So let's just say these are, we'll just call these cows. Do I want to draw the brand? Yes. You can draw an image. So if you're on a mobile device, you can use your fat finger and it'll be fine. Otherwise, if you're on a desktop like me, you can use your mouse, which for some people might be better, for some people it might be worse. But let's just say that these are cow 1. So I've just drawn that with my mouse, just like I would like on paint or anything like that. You can add that picture in there, and that will capture that brand for you. So when I add, that's displayed as the brand, and the others are displayed as a brand description. And you'll see that come out on our forms as we continue. As I progress through the consignment, I'll start to be asked rather the questions that are on the various different forms. And what we've done here is combine the questions from the different forms that I selected. So in this case, MSA and NVD into the one section so that you're answering the questions once. So were the livestock owned by the owner since birth? We'll just say yes. No, they're not milk-fed dealers, which is from MSA. No, they have not been through an MSA accredited stallion program. Do they contain Bos Indicus? Well, no, because I've said they're all Angus, but if they do, then please select yes. So now we're on to our food safety questions, which you'll recognise from the NVD. In the past 6 months, have any of these been listed on the ERP database? No. Have the livestock ever been fed fats, feed containing fats? No. So we go through these sort of questions. And again, if you're in doubt about any of these questions, as we say for all NVDs, please answer yes. But otherwise, I would fill the forms into all of the best of your knowledge. And chemicals and treatments, same deal. So if you're in doubt, say yes, but otherwise, make sure you're filling it in to the best of your knowledge about all of the livestock in the consignment. So this is all 30 of the livestock that I've previously entered in the consignment. Okay, so we get to the declaration step, and this is really the end of that part A on your NVD form. So just make sure that the pre-filled information is correct. Again, you can choose to upload a file or you can sign here. So if I do my signature using the same sort of thing as what I've previously done, it will automatically put a date in for your signature, but you can update that date if you have, for example, wanted to declare and print prior to the consignment. A telephone number is required, so you will need to put a telephone number in here. I think I've got that number right. I might just do my actual number so that I know that it's actually going to work. And an email, and it does check that that email and the phone number are correct. Then if you scroll down, you need to select that you've read the declaration terms, which you can find here by clicking on the different forms that you've selected. So I have read and I do declare. You can put in an MSA registration number if you like, and a different number for the owner if you like, and you can add other statutory declarations and additional information. Then once you click next, you are through the declaration part, and it will automatically move on to the transporter part. Now, at this stage, you've completed part A of the consignment, which leaves part B to the transporter. And as we've said here, if you don't know your transporter details or you're not the transporter yourself, you can leave this section and submit and print. Otherwise, you can add transporter details. And again, it's just another one of these pop-ups. So at this stage, I'm just going to show you how to submit and print. Or at this stage, we can also save a draft. So if I save, I might go through the save draft first, which will take you back to this screen here. And as you can see, my consignment is at the top of the list in draft form. If I click back into that consignment, it automatically takes me into the first step. But as you can see, it's saved all the information that I've previously done. And I can go in and update this if I want to while the consignment is in draft. When I'm happy that I want to submit and print, I can select to submit and print. What this pop-up is telling me is that the movement date, livestock description, and transporter details are editable after I submit and print this consignment for up to 48 hours after the movement date. So I can either choose to cancel at that point, save the draft instead of submitting, or I can submit. Once I submit, I'll be taken to the consignment summary screen. And this will give you a brief description of what's in the consignment. So forms, where it's going from and to, and the livestock that are described in the consignment. As I mentioned, you can update this the things that were mentioned on the previous screen. So the movement date, livestock description, and declaration for up to 48 hours after the movement date. So you will see the update button here. And then once the consignment moves to completed, you will no longer see the update button. However, you can always view and print these forms. So as you can see, when you view the forms, all of the information that I entered is added onto the various forms. And you can either choose to download them or print them from your browser, and just be aware that different browsers will show those options slightly differently. If I go back to my consignments, I can see at the top here that I've got my submitted consignment. And then from here, we can do a couple of things with that consignment. So if, for example, you realize that you need to do something similar or do another consignment, say in the next week, you can duplicate that consignment. So duplicating the consignment essentially brings all of the information that you've just created into a new consignment. You do get the opportunity to review it. So if there is one or two details that you might want to change, then you can. So for example, if I change agent to, I'm just going to say Agent Courtney because she's on my team, and she might be in she might be at XYZ Street. You can update those details and that will save, and you can go through to your next step. Now, if, for example, you have all this other information correct, you're ready to declare, you can go in and make your declaration, which again, you need to have read and understood the terms and conditions and add any different details if you want to. Then you can continue and submit this copy as well. And again, it'll take you to the consignment summary screen. If you want to go back to the consignments from there without actually viewing anything, you can click the consignments at the top of your screen. Okay, so I've got 2 consignments here now. If I decide that, oh, I don't need that first one anymore, even though it's still within the time frame before it's due to go, so 48 hours after 8 p.m. this evening, I can delete that consignment. So I can choose to delete, and that consignment will be removed from my list and no longer there for audit purposes or for you to use in general. If I decide this is a consignment that I want to do on a regular basis, I can create a new template from here. So I might give that template a name. So it might be sale yard through agent Courtney. If I create that, what that does is show that consignment in my template in my templates list. And then when I go to create a consignment, it'll give me that option here at the top, and it'll tell me what that includes. So the name of it, where it's from and to, what it includes species-wise and forms-wise. And if I select that template, it will carry those details through, except things like, you can change head counts and do the final touches that we talked about as well. And finally, you can view the documents from this stage. It'll take you back to your consignment summary, and you can view or print from there. How am I going, team? What have I missed so far?
Well, I think you've covered everything I had on my list, but I will let Courtney and Callum let us know if we have missed anything. Em, you mentioned about, what to do if you make a mistake, how you correct it. Some people often ask, if they don't have access to a printer, then how do they give the eNVD to a buyer? So you're able to perhaps just talk about, when things are paper or when things are digital, etc.
Yeah, so if you are keeping the consignment digital, obviously you can email a copy of the forms through. The other thing is that users can access a view-only look at eNVDs through NIS. So the likes of processors and sale yards and things can have a look at NVDs that are coming to their site without actually making changes to them. That's if you're keeping the consignment digital. If you have printed it, for example, and you need to make changes, then the same, rules and standards apply to eNVD as what they do to any other NVD. So if you've printed and then made changes to that eNVD on the printed copy, you will need to make sure that you've initialed those changes and that that's been sent to the right person. So probably one thing I did miss, Dee, was if people do not feel comfortable, filling out the NVD and they just want to get a form as quickly as they can, what they can do is come in, create from scratch, fill in these details. So just the movement information, the species, pick the forms that they do want access to. And once you get to this step, if you're not sure about the livestock numbers and what livestock exactly, and you just need to take this to the yards, you can submit and print at this point. So you can submit the consignment, and what that will do is give you blank consignment documents. So again, once you take that offline, you can fill in these documents as if they were paper copies, but you just need to make sure that they're still clear, correct and complete, and that everyone still has the right copy with them to make sure that you've met all the rules and standards and the compliance is still kept for all of those animals.
Excellent, thanks, Em. And a lot of people do actually find themselves out of the hard copy booklets, so this is how they do start using eNVD sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, this is available at all times. So there's been a couple of legitimate instances where eNVD has saved many people. Yeah, so this is the fun part of my job, but also the most rewarding in that we're delivering things for industry, for you guys and users. So I guess what you're seeing on the screen is a very high level snapshot or roadmap of what we're aiming towards with the eNVD program. Earlier this calendar year, we wrapped up a user research piece, which was basically a study around all things that people wanted out of eNVD and gave us some solutions as to how to solve some of the big challenges that we might face. We then looked into making sure that our application interfaces for other systems and products in the industry was really robust. And so we are just finishing the transition of our integrators, so on-farm software systems, to newer and more updated application process interfaces. And that will enable us to be scalable and be accessible for other parts of the industry. It says April to October, but sort of ongoing, we're doing pick search improvements. So we understand that the pick search in eNVD tends to be a pretty big user pain point. And if you do come across that, by all means, tell us what you're struggling with. So we are sort of consistently improving that, both the search and the data that's in the pick search, but probably the most exciting thing that we're working towards is offline capability. So we understand that the majority of our user base are using these kinds of technologies in an offline situation, and we want to be able to cater for that. So we have done a lot of background work on understanding how we can provide an offline solution. And you can expect to see some updates about native mobile apps and things like that, which can allow producers to create consignments offline, which will be very handy and which will help many people in the supply chain. And then further on down the line, so once we start to, I guess, build more of a user base and we get all of those things sorted, we'll start to look into things like an LAS integration. So doing your movements for you on the basis of the eNVD that you've submitted. And then again, even further down the line, starting to look at full supply chains and how we can enable them through eNVD, and starting to talk about other raising claims and declarations. So I guess the picture that we're painting here is that we are committed to developing eNVD to meet the requirements of industry, but we've also got some really strategic and long-term plans to help use this compliance technology to enable things in the supply chain and basically improve the experience overall. Yeah, so that pretty much wraps up my talking space, which I'm happy about. Perhaps you guys are happy about too. But like I said, we do have lots of support for you if you need assistance. If you do want to give eNVD a try, you can reach out to our customer experience team. Our phone number there is at the top. Otherwise, you can email me and my team at envd@integritysystems.com. And there is so many resources and things for you to explore on the Integrity Systems website to get into the depths of eNVD when you feel like it or when you might need to do it. And I guess just in closing, if you are having a first attempt, perhaps try the day before or the week before. Don't leave it to the last minute, because even though we are trying to make the experience as seamless as possible, it's always nice to have practice, and it's always nice to have time on your side. So give the drafts a crack and delete a few, and fiddle around with it before push comes to shove. And I'm sure you'll feel much more confident when the time comes when you actually want to use an eNVD for a consignment of livestock. So yeah, that just about wraps me up for the evening. Thank you.